And we're away. Good evening, everybody. My name is Samantha Marshall, and welcome to another podcast in the world according to Sam Marshall. I'm absolutely delighted to have Mike with me today. I was first introduced to Mike on Networking for Good as Santa Mike. I was a bit confused by this, but it was November. So, I thought I would go with it. And over the months, Mike's importance, not only at that time of the year, but actually in the ripple effect for the world, has become more and more clear to me. So I'm absolutely delighted to introduce my friend, Santa Mike. Say hello, Mike.
Hello, Mike. Oh, no. Hello, everyone. I wish I could see you, because then I could say lovely to see you. I can see Sam, and it's lovely to see her.
So what are we going to chat about today? Are we going to talk about kindness in the world?
That's a good thing. That's something we could certainly talk about and do with.
Can I throw over to you, Mike? Introduce yourself to my audience. Tell them all the things that you want them to know about Mike.
Okay. I'm 6'8" tall. No, if only. More like 5'8". For 40 years now, I've portrayed Father Christmas, subsequently Santa Claus, and now Santa. It started, I guess, with them. Well, not I guess. It started because I got lumbered at a school parent teachers association. I was the new boy there in my 30s, slim, big ginger beard, and the chairman, because of course in those days it was a man, the chairman said, "I need someone to be Father Christmas at the school Christmas fair." And we all got very busy writing stuff down. No one was looking up. And he said, "You're new, Mr. Faculty. I haven't got a job for you yet. You'll do it, won't you?" Big ginger beard, skinny bloke. All these old fat guys with clear chins. So I said yes. And I went home and moaned, "I've been lumbered. I've got to be Father Christmas." And my wife Sue said, "Yeah, you might enjoy it." She was right. I loved it. The very first time one of the kids came over and saw the little bit of scrappy cotton wool around my ginger beard and said, "Oh, I love you, Father Christmas." I was hooked. And I looked dreadful. How children can be daft enough to believe that what I looked like then was Father Christmas, I don't know. I've evolved over the years. I've got old, fat, with a white beard and a proper costume. Back then it was a hooded thing that made me look like the Scarlet Claw or something.
Oh, bless. But don't you find that children are so accepting? And if they're told you're Santa, you are Santa.
That's right. They don't want to not believe. It's weird, but if you like, I make a living out of lying to kids.
Well, I like to think of it as you make a living out of sprinkling the fairy dust and joy into the world at a very busy, stressful time for parents.
Oh, I think that's a much better way to look at it. Yes.
Yes. But you do parties outside of that, don't you? It's not it. You're not just for Christmas.
Well, no, exactly. That's what I say. Father Christmas is a bit like a dog, not just for Christmas. All year round, I try to spread the idea of kindness. I have a thing called the Santa mantra, which, as you know, but I'll explain it to people who may not know, which is Santa mantra is show appreciation, nurture thoughtful actions. And it's a really useful thing to work with, because a huge number of people we really value, we don't always remember to tell them. So, if the lollipop lady helps your children across the street, it's really nice. Hey, thank you. That was thank you for keeping them safe. That's a daft, one-off example. But there's lots of people that work with us and for us, people in our church, people in our community, people in our schools, that do an amazing job helping us, helping our children, helping our family. And we don't always think to show the appreciation. We feel it, but what I'm talking about is Santa, not Fanta. It's not feel appreciation, it's show appreciation.
Yeah.
And it works for businesses as well. I saw a thing recently, I can't remember who it was from, but like over 90% of people who choose to leave employment leave because they feel undervalued, not underpaid. And oh gosh, it's all got very serious, hasn't it? But it's
I
true.
was just thinking back to when I was employed. I started to become self-employed in 2013, but prior to that, since 1988, I have been continually employed, and several of those I left for lack of appreciation,
Mm.
not lack of opportunity, not lack of salary, but actual lack of appreciation. So I think the Santra mantra is so very, very important at a time when I woke up this morning and thought, how many people are lacking motivation?
Mm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I heard of someone who said, well, if I didn't appreciate them, I wouldn't pay their salaries. Well, that's not actually giving them the positive feedback, but showing your appreciation by telling them. And it can be tiny little things. It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It doesn't have to be like a big employee share participation scheme or something. It could just be setting up a little thing where people get thanked on a regular basis and sincerely. Or you buy, well, all right, I'll go Santa, you buy cookies or biscuits or whatever on a Friday, or it's, and it doesn't have to be big things that take you away from the workplace. You can show your appreciation in the workplace, and indeed that's probably the best place to do it, because then people are still working.
Well, I used to work for a global company, and they had a global program, and it was called the Spot Award. And the Spot Award was exactly that, shining a light on something that someone had done that went above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spot Award came with a £50 bonus.
Yeah.
Now, in my time, I did 6 years at this company. In my time, I earned 10 Spot Awards for things that I did that was seen to be outside of my remit, or just
Mm-hmm.
went that bit above and beyond. And I still have those Spot Awards here. They're in the filing cabinet next to me. They are, gosh, nearly 30 years old, some of them, but they still hold a sentimental space here for
Mm-hmm.
what they were given for. And I think that's where you're driving, isn't it, really?
It is. It's that little thing. You know, with the sort of salary you were probably on, £50 is negligible, but the actual award, getting an award, means the world. And I think that's something to bear in mind, because I mean, you don't need to spend a lot of money on these things, but an employer who shows appreciation gets loyalty. I mean, they say loyalty is a two-way street, and that's one of the ways of showing that the street's open. But it's not just loyalty from your staff. If a customer places a big order and you're happy, you let them know how much you value what they've done. I mean, it sounds like common sense, doesn't it? But there's not as widely used as you'd hope.
Absolutely. I partner with a catalogue company, and it's an expanding company, but it's still small enough that the managing director knows all of his partners, as he calls us,
Mm-hmm.
by name.
Yep.
And you'll place an order at various different times of the year, and at Easter you'll open your order and you'll find a bag of mini eggs in there. Or at Christmas there were chocolate advent calendars went in that were for you, and I thought that was lovely. And when I used to be an Amazon seller, I'm not anymore, because they definitely do not have the Santra mantra. But what I used to do for my customers was drop a tiny bag of Haribo in. There's a contact lens company out there who sends monthly or daily disposables to people, and they drop a small bag of Haribo in. And it is amazing how that just, in our minds, cements that company as the ones to go back to because of what they've done.
Yeah, yeah. We both know someone called Yuandi Rolf at the Networking for Good, and I bought some of her lavender oil because she sells really superb lavender oil. And when it turned up, there was a bracelet for Sue included as a little thank you for ordering. And that's
Oh,
a
how
tiny
lovely.
little thing, but I would never go anywhere else for lavender oil now.
No, and I think that's what we're trying to put across in this podcast to people is it's not an overblown gesture, it's something tiny that perhaps, almost, I was going to say almost doesn't mean anything to you. Clearly it does. You know that I can be a little bit woo-woo at times, that I love my crystals, and you often see me. This is a selenite wand, and you often see me on a network group, um, just using my selenite wand on my aura. But because I do love this, I have a bag of little crystals and gemstones at the side of me. These are actually love hearts, and they're in all different shapes, and there's quartz in here, there's dolomite in here, there's turquoise in here, and I'll often drop one of these into a little envelope to a friend, or in a box out to a customer, because that means a lot to me. The intrinsic value of this is negligible,
Yeah.
but what people get at the other end, just amazing.
Mm. Mm. Yes, my oldest granddaughter is very into crystal at the moment. And so when the Easter Bunny came and visited us last Friday, while he was leaving eggs and K-pop and Lego toys for the other two, he left her a lot of crystal hearts with different stone and that.
Beautiful.
And she was really pleased because it sort of recognizes that she's a bit more grown up than the other two. And and it shows that we have appreciated that she's not still into the chocolate eggs and all that. She is actually that bit more grown up.
But I think that's something else that is really important, is recognizing at which stage the person is that you're dealing with. I have a nephew and niece. They are 35 and 33. I still think of them as being 15 and 13. They both hold extremely responsible jobs. They've got in charge of their whole life. And if anybody had treated me as a child when I was 35 or 33, I would have been quite upset. So I have to take a step back and go, there might be your nephew and niece, but actually they're adults.
Yeah.
And where do we go with this now? So that just showing that appreciation for me shows up in a weekly phone call.
Yeah.
Hey honey bun, how you doing?
Yep.
Because otherwise there would be that their months would go past without us talking because we're all busy.
Mm. Yeah. And it does show immediately that you're thinking of them, that they're in your mind. And it might only be a couple of minutes, but that's worth a lot to both of you, or both ends of the call.
I have a friend who is older than me. Every week, a particular day, 6 o'clock, I think it's a Sunday, and either he phones his brother or his brother phones him, and they catch up on what's gone on in the week and see you next week. And I think that is lovely because, as I think we recently lost mother-in-law.
Yeah.
And when we were doing the phone around to let the family know, we got hold of a cousin who said, oh, thank goodness, we didn't know how to get hold of you. Her brother died in January.
Mm.
So our uncle died.
Yeah,
We didn't know. And his funeral had come and gone. And his daughters had no way of getting hold of us. Now, there was a bit of shock within our family, but I took a step back and said, okay, yeah, we're all a bit shocked by his passing. Actually, as a family, if we'd have done better at reaching out to him and talking to him, it wouldn't have been a shock.
Yeah,
because they'd have known how to get hold of us.
Yeah.
Little lessons everywhere.
Yeah.
I've another friend who he'll do a podcast at a later date, and he always picks up the phone first, prioritizes the phone first. And I think we've got to a point in life where we actually turn to email or messenger first because we don't want to disturb the person on the phone. I'm not quite sure when that change happened, but it was somewhere around the early 2000s.
Yes, where you think, well, I haven't actually got permission to phone them and disrupt their evening, perhaps. Whereas really and truly, they'd almost always be really glad to get a phone call.
Absolutely. It's very interesting. I mean, my friend will always go, and maybe I've typed something to him and he'll just pick up the phone and go, this is so much easier. Well, yes, it is. I sometimes go, I just wanted a quiet evening. But actually, it is easier because you can say what you need to say so much faster than you can actually type it.
Yeah.
So.
The thing I find is one of my sons will send us a message on Facebook saying, oh, I need this morning. Can you help? And we say time and time again, if it's something you need this morning, it's so much better if you just phone, because we might not even see, because we're in an age where we're not looking at Facebook all the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it can be hours before we even see it.
Yeah, that's one of the downsides of today's connected world, isn't it?
Yeah, but it could be he's showing appreciation for us by not phoning us. Do you know what I mean? He's saying, your time's valuable. I don't want to just take it up with a phone call. I'll send a message on Facebook Messenger and you'll see it when you've got a chance. But
yeah, I guess. But that sort of brings me on to an interesting point that I was musing in my own head this morning. And that is about when it is the right thing to do to pick up the phone. Now, yes, I describe myself as being a little bit woo-woo. I am guided by crystals. I believe in universal flow. And sometimes I get an overwhelming sense that I need to speak to someone. I need to phone them. There are some people that I know instinctively it's a messenger message, but I need to speak to that person. And they'll say, well, goodness gracious, I was only thinking about you because.
Yep.
And the conversation flows. And I just wonder how many people have that sense and then go, but I can't phone. I simply can't pick up the phone because I might disturb them.
Yeah.
If it's the other way about and my phone rings and I'm eating my dinner, or as is a recurring theme in these podcasts, I keep telling people 12 till 1, that's my guilty pleasure, that's bargain hunt. So you try and call me between 12 and 1, I will not answer the phone. Because that's my time. I'm not like a Pavlov's dog where the phone is. The phone pings and I'm looking at it. My phone can be sat at the side of me pinging away and I can ignore it for hours if I'm doing something else. I appear to be fairly unusual. Most people are driven by their phone, and if it rings, they'll pick it up no matter what they're doing. And I used to be like that, but my husband looked at me one day and said, how many hot dinners have you actually eaten in the last 3 weeks? Because I think it's 2. Because I think for the other 19, 20 days, you started someone's phone, you put your knife and fork down, you've taken the call. Why do you do that? Why does a phone have an answer phone?
Yeah. Back in the day when we had landlines only, we had a thing that if we were eating our evening meal and the phone went, they'll phone again or not, or there'll be an answer phone message. It was a rule Sue introduced. So we don't get up, not a rule, but, you know, a process, if you like. We don't get up during a meal to answer the phone.
No.
And these days, of course, you don't even have to get up during the meal because you've got your phone with you and it's in your pocket and you pull it out and you.
And that has become more prevalent. And I had this conversation with several of my friends. So I do have a dining room table, which is covered in papers and fake floral bouquets and things like that. We tend to eat in the lounge with a tray on our lap, watching TV. Kiddies, this is not good for your digestion. You shouldn't do that because you should be present as you eat your food. However, this is what we've chosen to do. But I do make a point of the phone goes, I don't put it on silent because I never remember to take it off again, but I will push it to one side because Weight Watchers and Slimming World taught me years ago that if you were mindful of what you were eating, you would eat it slower. You would get the signals from your tummy saying you were fuller faster, and you would be able to appreciate the person who cooked that meal for you. Weight Watchers went one step further and told me that what I needed to do was cut, put the knife down, take the mouthful, put the fork down, finish that mouthful by chewing. They used to say 32 times. I don't think I ever chewed 32 times. And then when I'd swallowed, pick up the knife and fork and repeat. Now, what that did was it slowed the whole process down. And I challenge everybody who's watching this podcast, at your next meal where you need a knife and fork, possibly even if you're holding a sandwich, but where you need a knife and fork, be conscious about what you're doing, because I'm almost willing to bet you're going to hold the knife and fork, you're going to cut, you're going to put it in your mouth, and as you're chewing 3 or 4 times, your fork is back in, you're cutting again, and this mouthful is coming up before you've probably swallowed the last one.
Yeah.
There's a whole thing in there about digestion, about saliva, about mastication. That means chewing before anybody gets smutty. And the fact that you start the digestion process in the mouth. So by slowing everything down and putting down the knife and fork, you get time to appreciate the food more.
Yeah. The equivalent with the sandwich, of course, is put the sandwich down between bites.
Exactly.
Chew properly, because sandwiches on bread, starch starts being digested in the mouth before it ever gets into the tummy. So give it time in your mouth and then pick it up, have another bite. The chew it 32 times sounds like another way to not get a hot dinner.
I think when I first started, and I was put on my first diet when I was 10 years old. So I've been dieting off and on for 47 years. But I think that chew it 32 times came out of Weight Watchers. And I just, I got bored counting. There are many people who go, we don't want a calorie count because it makes us focus on food. Absolutely, I get that 100%. Trying to chew 32 times also makes you focus on food.
Yeah.
What it does do by chewing more and slowing down is you do actually get the flavor of the food more. But I've got friends who'll sit there, at least my laptop goes on the floor or is left in the office. I've got friends who will sit with their laptop still working and eat their tea at the same time. And they've done that for years, and that works really, really well for them. But I would question, A, are they actually tasting the food that they've got? And B, what happens if you spill it on the keyboard?
It gets a bit sticky.
We've all done it. We've all, tipped our coffee over our keyboard, or crumbs in the keyboard, and all sorts of things like that. I used to hoover mine regularly. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I bet you never thought you were going to get diet tips in a chat with Santa, did you?
Can I thoroughly recommend cookies? But if people want to do something slightly different for Father Christmas, my absolute favourite, lemon drizzle cake. Takes a bit of
Really?
heating, doesn't it? So
Oh,
nice, isn't it? The sort of the crispiness of the outside and the moisture of the inside and the little sharpness of the lemon.
and just so different to mince pies and Christmas cake that's going to be around. So, what's your tipple of choice then, Santa?
Well, see, people seem to insist on whiskey or sherry, and I'm driving all night. I've got millions of miles to drive. So I actually like, I know it sounds boring, but I quite like a glass of water.
Lovely, lovely. Now, not all waters are equal, clearly, because I live up in Scotland and Scottish water is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, I used to be a Buckinghamshire girl, and all that chalkiness in the
Mhm.
water was what I lived with. Then went to Devon and soft water down there. That
Mm.
I nearly floated the bathroom away the first time I had a shower and washed my hair because I wasn't used to that.
Yeah.
Um, and we've recently been back to High Wycombe, which has got very hard water.
Mm.
And we were at my cousin's house, and I was having a shower and went, "Ah, Wycombe need more." And there were suds everywhere, and she went, "Ah, yes, forgot to tell you, I've had a water softener."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I was going to
it's
say, did you
okay.
find you're using a lot more shampoo when you're down this way? Because, of
So
course, it's
I
lovely and
fought my
soft in
way through the
Scotland.
bubbles.
Yeah.
So what's next for you, Santa? What have you got coming up this summer, for example?
I've got a couple of events as Santa, but I've got more as storytelling and as Hatch Peg the Portly Pirate. Oh yeah, it's the name. I got to do my storytelling, and and
Oh, that's
I
brilliant.
really like Patch Peg. He's a lovely character. I've just been working on a short story about him and his ship's dragon. You see, a lot of ships, they've got cats, haven't they, to keep down their rodents.
I believe so, yes, yeah.
The Zanzibar, Patch Peg's ship, they've got a dragon. So much more effective.
Mm.
And you know, with dragons, they can get big or small under their own control. Well, that's the thing with Lady Dorothea Shadowclaw. When she's really big, she's a great big red dragon up in the sky, scaring the people that Patch is going to attack. But when she gets small, she can go anywhere in the ship and can take out the rodents and feed herself on rodents and all that. So she's a great asset to the ship, Zanzibar.
Oh, she stands it.
She is. She's a lovely lady. Unfortunately, the story is about how, you see, you get dragon whistles.
Mm.
If you heard that, you should do dragon mastery. If you didn't, that's fine. But that's the right pitch for a dragon. And one day when she was out fishing for her own supper, she was just diving in to get a great giant barracuda to be her supper because she was big. And I didn't realise, and I blew the whistle. And it sort of disturbed her, and she went in too deep, and she got a snout full of water, and it put out her internal fires. She couldn't breathe fire. She had no fire inside. You can imagine the poor dear. She was stuck trying to swim back to the ship because, you know, without the fire, a dragon can't fly. And we had to put out the jolly boat and go and fetch her in. And we really tried. The cook gave her a really hot curry. No good. Fed her some coals out of the range. No good. We'd passed an island with a volcano. Now, had she been able to fly, she could have got to the top of the volcano with no trouble, but she wouldn't have had to. But because she couldn't fly, and it was quite steep, we couldn't get her up to the top because we thought the heat of a volcano would probably be hot enough. But when we got back to the ship, the cook had a great idea. He said, "Why don't we have a cannon set up, but without a cannonball, and fire it right in her mouth?" I know, sounds mad, doesn't it? But we gave it a try. We were desperate. He said, "Yeah, go along with it." And it worked. It only worked, didn't it? It set the
Really?
fires going again. And so she went full size and went out and got a big old dinner. Brought back a load of fish for us as well. And we had a lovely fish stew.
Oh. Could have been different though, couldn't it? Could have been a different ending if you hadn't had that thought.
A disaster, because I mean, she was fading. She'd gone from bright red to sort of a pale pink, and she was moping around. The place wouldn't go big. Anyway, it all worked out in the end. Thank goodness, eh?
Yeah.
Of course,
Well, that's good. So where are we likely to be able to find you giving these tales and telling us about dragons and pirates?
around and about Reading for most of the year, and online, and possibly in August, possibly in Edinburgh, depending whether I
Oh,
go to the Fringe.
the Fringe.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh,
I've worked at the Fringe before. I've done little bits of stand-up comedy, but never my own show. And there's very competitive, the children's shows in Edinburgh. And if you go with one of the big places, you can lose a lot of money.
right.
You can lose 10,000-12,000 pounds just like that. But if you go
Wow.
with one of the free Fringe things, you can actually put your show on pretty much for nothing, and you maybe make some money. Of course, the big thing with Edinburgh is it's so expensive.
Mm. Yeah.
There are people in Edinburgh who move out of their houses in August and go away for the month, and the money they can make on the house in August pretty much pays their mortgage the rest of the year.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. You are absolutely correct. We've been there in August and gone, why have we done this?
Mm.
So,
Yeah, you're much better going to the jazz festival or the film festival that's away from the big festivals, the international festivals and the fringe festivals and everything in August. And much better to go, say, in June and one of the other festivals.
absolutely.
But
Well, you're
it's
going to give
Edinburgh in August. It's different, isn't it?
yeah.
It's amazing.
So many people have launched their comedic careers from the Fringe,
Yeah.
with various different awards that happen. And you hear some of the greats like Jo Brand, as I'm sure was saying, she had a show at 3 a.m.
Mm.
and there were 2 people in it, but
Yep.
someone from the Perrier Awards was there and gave
Yep.
her Best Newcomer, and look where she is now. Yeah, love her or hate her, I quite like her, but
Well, I loved her since she was the sea monster back in the olden days, back in I suppose it was the 80s, maybe late 70s, when she was Jo Brand, the sea monster.
oh, I don't know that one.
Mm. She always had quite hard comedy in those days. Julian Clary, who's sort of very much a establishment figure now, really. He used to be the Joan Clary fan club. No, the Joan Collins fan club with Fanny the Wonder Dog. And they were brilliant. And Arthur Smith's always been Arthur Smith. And, he's one of the grand old men of comedy now. Sorry, we seem to attract off into comedy, but that's fine because I love comedy.
That's part of what these podcasts are about. That's why it's called The World According to Sam Marshall, because everything just, all interlinks.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, you're going to give me some details of how people can contact you, aren't you? And I'm going to put that up on the end slide.
Okay.
So we'll put a reminder of the Santa mantra.
Yes, that'd be good. Show appreciation, nurture thoughtful action.
That's what it's all about. And as you know, because when I'm on LinkedIn and I connect to someone new, whether I've asked for the connection or whether they've connected to me, I go to the Random Acts of Kindness organization online and I grab the calendar for the year, the 2026 calendar, and I send that on because someone once shared it with me and I thought it was lovely that they come up with 365 ways that you can show kindness to people you don't know. You don't have to do it every day. You could do it once a week, once a month, when you remember. But the point being, putting that kindness out there is like a ripple. And you be kind to someone and they will be kind to someone else. Because I think you'll agree with me. No one knows what battles someone else is fighting. Even if you're their best friend.
Yes.
You'll know some of it, but you'll only know what your best friend has allowed you to know. So I send out this random acts of kindness calendar, and on the website, they actually have downloadable printables that you can colour in for kiddies. But they also do deliver to your inbox every day your daily kindness motto.
Mm-hmm.
And some of those, I don't look at them every day, but sometimes I look and go, yeah, I needed that today.
Mm. Have you seen today's?
I haven't seen today's. I've been too busy doing this day, but I'll go and have a look. What's today's?
I don't know, but I suspect you've got a treat in store. Sam, I was going to ask you, who's your favourite comedian, since we were talking about comedy?
See, I have many, many, many. And I do quite like Russell Howard, and I used to love Jack Whitehall.
Mm-hmm.
Now, story about Jack Whitehall. So we lived in Devon at the time. Jack Whitehall was very new to the circuit. I think he may have done his first mock the week, and we went, oh. Anyway, it's coming up for my birthday, and my husband said, I'm taking you to the comedy club to see Jack Whitehall. Oh, I said, where are we going? And he said, Balham. And this sounded really posh to me. So he'd organised a hotel, and we drove up, and we're driving to this comedy club, and I'm looking around. I went, hello. And he says, yes, dear. I said, this is Tooting Bec. And he said, yes. I said, you told me we were going to Balham. He said, well, it's only just over the road there. We're not far away. Anyway, we went into the comedy club, and it was downstairs. I believe it was called the Banana Comedy Club. Whether it's still there or not, I don't know. But you went downstairs, and there were tables. About 50 people could get in this room. It was a very intimate venue.
Yeah.
Jack Whitehall was headlining, and there were a few other people. So we sat there with our burger and chips and our pint of lager in touching distance of Jack Whitehall. And it was all new stuff to us. And we thought he was absolutely brilliant. The really sad thing was he'd written that, and it was all exclusive and it was all new. But he then ran it through live at the Apollo, on Mock the Week, on I don't know if he went on to Have I Got News for You at that time, but unfortunately, we were completing the punchlines for him because he was running the same stuff. Now, if we hadn't have gone to his stand-up show, if we hadn't have watched certain programs, this would all have been new and fresh. So I sort of went off the boil a bit with him. But Russell Howard, I quite like. I laugh an awful lot at John Bishop. And his now has really become, let me look at my life and see what I can rip out of my own life. So I quite like that. I've always loved Billy Connolly, and my very short story on that was when we lived in Buckinghamshire, we went to, was it the Lyceum or the Apollo? It was one of the two we went to, and we were sat, the stalls, they did actually have slopes on them. And I was sat about halfway back in the stalls, just slightly up. It was a really hot summer's day. I'd had a really long week. We went in, and I fell asleep. And my husband elbowed me and said, you have to wake up. If Billy Connolly catches you asleep, your life will not be worth living. Anyway, he didn't catch me. Wonderful night. Still drink tickety boo tea when I can get it. Still watch all of the reruns of Billy Connolly's World Tour of, and it was Billy Connolly's fault that for honeymoon we came to Inverness, because the year before, so about 1992, he'd done a series of programs on the TV. He'd come up to Inverness, and I just went, I want to go there. And the rest was history. Who's yours?
I would say Billy Connolly would be right up there. Rick Mail, I loved Rick Mail. actually got to be in his last English film, feature film, because a friend made the film and they managed to get Rick Mail to be in it, ridiculously short of his quote. His agent was quite cross apparently, but he just loved the whole idea of the film. And it's about to get launched on YouTube because I was an investor in the film as well as being in it. And we've now, all the investors have been fully repaid and a little bit over, which is quite unusual for a film.
Yeah.
And I never got to work with him though, which was really upsetting. But I used to see him at the Comedy Store right back in the 80s, about the same time when Joe was still the sea monster. I did that wonderful thing about being at this health spa thing and dreaming she'd eaten a marshmallow, and when she woke up, where was her pillow gone? I've always liked that.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah, and I like, for Billy Connolly, I liked his song about his granny. You know, I've got a granny and she's a Pakistani. She's my Hindustani granny from Bombay. And she feeds me chapatis with curried beef and tatties, and I'm Vindaloo all day. Only with an accent.
He was just so good.
Yeah, I think that's probably off his Big Banana Boots album. Probably, I don't know. And of course, then he married, what's her name from Not the 9 O'Clock News? The
Pamela Stephenson?
Yeah, the Australian lady, Pamela Stephenson, who I remember mainly for one sketch off Not the 9 O'Clock News, where she was standing there with her breast out. And I said, hey, what's happened? She said, oh, God, I've left the baby on the bus.
Oh dear, they did push the envelopes. Really, I think I didn't realise at the time when I was watching Ade Edmondson and Rick Mail, I was watching Alas Smith and Jones, just how much they were pushing. Jack D's another one with just that deadpan face and delivery. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's another one that I think a lot of the comedians, you see them live, and then when you see them on TV, it's like you were saying about Jack Whitehall, TV just burns through their material. So you keep on seeing the same material. And what you accepted as an ad lib, you realize is actually not an ad lib. It's a carefully crafted work of art.
But that brings a whole new amazement into my life then, that they've woven this intricate and they come back to their central point an hour after they started it in what looks like a ramble.
Yep.
It's an amazing skill.
Yeah. And there are some that the sort of cross between comedians and raconteurs, as you were saying about John Bishop, where they're using their own life and they're bringing it all in, and then you're back where you started.
Yeah, just amazing. I do sit in awe of them. I just think they're absolutely brilliant. I mean, I can chat like this, and all of this is ad-libbed. We haven't scripted any of this, but I don't think I could do it in front of an audience of millions.
No. Another one I like is Mark Thomas. I don't know if you know Mark Thomas. He's
he was sort of from the 90s, wasn't he? And didn't he go on to be like a green activist?
He is an activist, not necessarily a green activist, but an activist in many ways. He, along with Josie Long, was very much a socialist comedian and looked at Britain, saying it needs to see things. I mean, a few years ago, he said, when you look at Great Britain, you think, here we are in a country that goes back thousands of years. Do you know when Great Britain was established? 1920 something. And of course, it's the partition of Ireland, and then the country of Great Britain and Northern Ireland became a country. And we think thousands of years. Well, yes, our islands go back thousands of years, but our actual country was then less than a century old. It's now, I think, just over a century old. And it's things like that. He said, like he said, his mum's an absolute dyed-in-the-wool Tory, racist, son reader, if reader's not too strong a term, and how with lockdown they had to be in the flat together, And he said, the thing is, she's all of that stuff, but she loves swearing. And he said, she come in one day and she's saying, I said, what's wrong with your old bag? And she said, I've forgotten what I was upset about. And it's stupid little things like that. And that's another one. We go and see him every year, and 90% of the show is the same from year to year. And you still love it. And there's the new stuff that's been added and some of the old stuff that's been dropped to make way. But we do seem to be spending, given that we were talking about Christmas, we're spending a lot of time talking about comedy, but it's good fun.
But that's all about spreading kindness and spreading joy, isn't it? And I have no problem doing that. You can turn the news on at 6 o'clock if you want a dose of someone's reality. I was going to say reality, but someone's reality. You don't come to me for that. You come to me for smiles and joy, and for me to try and lift your heart with my little crystal heart.
Yeah.
So on that note, Mike, I will draw this to a close. Thank you so much for coming chatting to me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Behind you and your lovely roaring fire, and we can see your twinkling Christmas lights.
As I say, thank you so much for asking me along, because I do love to come and blether. And this has gone in a way I've never gone on a podcast before, getting into the recollections of the comedy and that. And I really enjoyed it. And I hope we haven't bored any of your watchers.
Well, do you know what? They've all got a stop button. They've all got a fast forward button. So if they've enjoyed it, they'll still be with us, and that's fantastic. And if they haven't, they'll have turned off. But the beauty of this is you and I will never know. You and I will never know. So thank you ever so much. I'll get the end screen sorted so that people know how to contact you. And brilliant. I'll probably see you on Monday.
I expect so. I hope it didn't happen yesterday. I had a sleep in because we'd had the grandchildren quite a lot and were worn out.
I think I asked the question and was told there was no meeting. For the purposes of this video, Mike and I attend a weekly networking group called Networking for Good, surprisingly enough. And it's at 11 o'clock on a Monday morning via Zoom. But I'm fairly sure yesterday being Bank Holiday Monday, it was actually cancelled, and it should be next Monday. And that's going to confuse everybody because this is going out on a Wednesday night in a couple of weeks' time. So they're going to think I'm mad because it wasn't a bank holiday.
So way back on Easter Monday, it was probably cancelled. Oh, do you remember Easter? Gosh, that was a long time ago.
Soon be Christmas.
Yeah, oh, don't.
Right, Mike, I'll stop the recording and I will speak to you soon.
Okay, bye now, guys.